Today, we're going to take a tour of the most amazing piece of architecture you will ever own, your own body. We're diving deep into the human musculoskeletal system, that incredible internal framework of bone and muscle that lets you do, well, everything. So let me ask you this. What is our body's ultimate multitasking machine? I mean, think about it. It gives us our shape, it protects our most vital organs, it actually manufactures parts for our blood, and it acts as this super sophisticated system of levers. The answer? It's our skeleton. It is a masterpiece of engineering that, let's be honest, we usually take for granted. So, on our little tour today, we're going to start with the master blueprint, the why behind the whole design. Then we'll look at the living building blocks, see how the whole frame gets put together, explore the art of connection at the joints, fire up the engines, our muscles, and finally, put it all together to see how your body's clever levers make it all work. All right, let's start with that master blueprint. Before we dig into all the individual parts, you've got to ask, what is the fundamental purpose of this whole structure? What was the original design brief for the human skeleton? Well, it turns out it has 6 key jobs. First, support and shape. That's the obvious one. It's the scaffolding that holds us up. Second, protection. You know, like your skull guarding your brain. Third, it gives our muscles something to attach to so we can actually move. Fourth, it provides leverage, which basically multiplies the force from our muscles. We'll get more into that later. And here's where it gets really mind-blowing. It's also a factory for blood cells and a storehouse for vital minerals like calcium. So yeah, this is way more than just a simple frame. Now that we've got the blueprint, let's zoom way in on the raw materials. What are these living building blocks, our bones, actually made of? Okay, so a bone is not just some dry, dead stick. It's a living, dynamic organ. It's this brilliant composite material, right? A mix of organic proteins that give it flexibility and inorganic mineral salts like calcium that give it hardness. It's all wrapped up in a membrane called the periosteum, and it's got this central cavity filled with marrow. Now, the yellow marrow, that's for storing fat. But the red marrow, that's where the real magic happens. It is constantly churning out our red and white blood cells. And this right here perfectly shows you how that composite nature works. If you take out all the minerals, you're just left with the protein part, and the bone becomes so soft and flexible you can literally tie it in a knot. But if you burn away all the organic protein, leaving only the minerals, the bone becomes incredibly brittle and shatters. It's the combination of both of those things that gives our skeleton its amazing resilience and strength. And of course, form always follows function. Our bones come in 4 main shapes, and each one is perfectly tailored for a specific job. You've got long bones in your arms and legs for leverage, short, boxy bones in your wrists for all those tiny little movements, flat bones like your skull for protection, and then these complex, irregular bones like your vertebrae, each one uniquely shaped to fit together just right. So, let's zoom back out. We've seen the building blocks. How do they all come together? It's time to assemble the human frame. 206. That's the magic number. That's how many individual bones come together to form the complete adult skeleton. It's like this incredibly intricate puzzle where every single piece has its place and its purpose. And to make sense of this puzzle, anatomists basically organize it into 2 main sections. First up, you've got the axial skeleton. That's 80 bones, and it forms the body's central core. Then you have the appendicular skeleton with the other 126 bones, and that's all of our limbs, our arms and our legs. Let's look at that central pillar first. The axial skeleton is really all about stability and protection. It includes the 29 bones of the skull protecting your brain, the 26 vertebrae of your spinal column protecting your spinal cord, and then the ribs and sternum forming a protective cage around your heart and lungs. The appendicular skeleton, on the other hand, is all about getting things done. It's about interaction and movement. It's our arms and legs, plus the girdles that attach them to that axial core. This is the part of the skeleton that lets us move around and interact with the world. So we have 206 bones, but they'd be pretty useless as just a static pile, right? The magic is in how they're all connected. Which brings us to section 4, the art of connection. And it all comes down to one thing, the joint. A joint is simply any point where 2 bones meet. It sounds so basic, but these connections are the absolute key to our mobility. They're what turn a rigid frame into a dynamic machine. Now, not all joints are created equal. Some are totally immovable, like the seams in your skull. Others are only partially movable, like where your ribs meet your sternum. But the most common ones are the freely movable synovial joints, which are lubricated to allow for a huge range of motion. And their designs are incredible. You've got the hinge in your knee, the ball and socket in your shoulder, the pivot in your neck that lets you shake your head, and the gliding joints in your wrist. A frame with joints is great, but it can't move by itself. It needs power. And that brings us to the engines of motion, our muscles. Get ready for this number. Approximately 650. That's about how many individual muscles we have layered over our skeleton. Every single one is a bundle of tissue designed for one primary job: to contract, to pull, and to create movement. And they work based on this really elegant principle. See, muscles can only pull. They can't push. So to create movement in two directions, they have to work in pairs. To bend your arm, your biceps contracts, it pulls. To straighten it back out, your triceps contracts and pulls. One is always pulling while the other relaxes. It's a beautifully simple system. So we have the frame, we have the connections, and we have the engines. Now for the payoff. Let's see how it all works together as this incredibly sophisticated piece of engineering, as a system of clever levers. It really just comes down to some basic physics. Every single time you move, your body is using a lever system. And a lever just has three components. The fulcrum, that's the pivot point, which is your joint. The power, that's the force being applied by your muscle. And the weight, which is whatever load you're trying to move, whether it's just your arm or a heavy box. And the arrangement of those three parts creates three different classes of levers. And guess what? Our body uses all of them. A first-order lever, with the fulcrum in the middle, that's what you use when you extend your arm. A second-order lever, with the weight in the middle, that's what's happening when you go up on your tiptoes. And the most common one in our body is the third-order lever, with the power in the middle, which you are using every single time you bend your elbow. And this really says it all. Bones and joints act as levers to increase the speed and distance of movement produced by muscles. In other words, our skeleton isn't just a passive frame hanging out. It's an active, mechanical system designed for efficient, powerful movement. The big takeaway here is that our bodies are just an absolute engineering marvel. So I'll leave you with this to think about. The next time you walk across a room, or wave to a friend, or even just nod your head, what piece of this hidden engineering will you appreciate the most? The living bones, the elegant joints, or those clever levers? Thanks for tuning in.